been looking at those qualities that arise unbidden, that give us confirmation that we've reconciled that sublime paradox of having arrived or no longer being seekers, and yet still fully participating in the movement and the experiences of life. So let's see what happens if we make a little summation, a little encapsulation of what these explorations and inquiries have brought up for us. And first, there's two very old stories. The first is that story of a great samurai warrior who was walking down the road, bloodied and weary from yet another battle. When he met on the road an old monk. And stopping the old monk, he was inspired to ask him, "Tell me, if there's a hell, is there a heaven? I'm a famous samurai swordsman." And the old monk looked at him and said, "You, a famous samurai swordsman? Look at you. You look just like a peasant to me. Your sword wouldn't even cut off the head of a dandelion." And with that, blood came up into the eyes of the samurai. And he took out his sword and he put it at the throat of the old monk, ready to run him through. The old monk looked at him in the eye and said, "That's hell." And with that, the samurai swordsman looked into the eyes of the old monk and realized this old monk was willing to die for truth. And tears began to roll down his cheeks, and he fell down on his knees in front of the old monk. The old monk said, "And that's heaven." Then there's that story about the king. He was so proud and so arrogant that everyone had to bow their heads down in front of him on the floor when they came into his presence. He decided to have a very great party. He invited all his people from far and wide. And when the trumpets blared and he came in wearing all of his finery with great pomp and ceremony, everybody kneeling down with their heads on the floor in front of him, the king noticed that there was an old beggar standing over in the corner who was not bowing. The king was very, very angry. So he marched over to the old man and he said, "Only God does not bow before the king, and nothing is greater than God. Who then are you?" The old man said, "I am that nothing." Then there's a story about a man called Hatim Tai. Hatim Tai was the leader of a nomadic band, but he was very revered and much loved because he would listen to those who came to him. He was a mediator. And so the other tribes from all around began to give him their allegiance. And it came to the ears of the king that Hatim Tai had gathered a huge number of tribes around him who were following him. And he immediately thought, this man is becoming so famous, he's going to take over my kingdom. We have to do something about it. So his Grand Vizier, who was somewhat of a hypocrite, said, well, why don't you just bring him back and have his head lopped off in front of all the people? And the king said, no, we will go to war with Hatim Tai. We will teach him and the people a lesson. And so the king gathered together all of his soldiers. But in the meantime, as these things happen, word got to the ears of Hatim Tai. And when he gathered the tribal leaders around him, they said, we will fight for you, we will go to war for you. And Hatim Tai said, no. The jealousy of one man to another should not bring men to be separated from their wives and children and blooded on the battlefield. I will leave here. I will go to the mountains and make them my abode. And so he did. Hatim Tai disappeared to the mountains. And of course, when the king brought his army, he was able to say, what a coward! Who said that he had good qualities? He's just a coward. But then the vizier and the king decided, well, if he won't come to war, we'll put a bounty on his head and someone will betray him. So the king said, I will give 2,000 gold coins for anyone who can bring Hatim Tai to me. But of course, all the people revered Hatim Tai, and even though they knew where his abode was in the mountains, they did not betray him. But then one day, an old charcoal seller and his wife, who had lived a very subsistence living, very poor, were out gathering charcoal nearby where Hatim Tai had his cave. And the old woman said to the old man, if only we could find that Hatim Tai and get the reward, we would be able to live in comfort for the rest of our days on 2,000 pieces of gold. The old man responded, how could you say this about our revered Hatim Tai? Shush your mouth, old woman. But as it happened, Hatim Tai heard this conversation, and he came out from his cave, and he said, take me to the king. Have your reward. Live in comfort for the rest of your days. But as it so happened, there was a band of the king's soldiers in those mountains at that time, and they were able to overhear what was said, and they recognized Hatim Tai. So they immediately bound him, and with the old man and woman following, they went back into the presence of the king. The king said, who found Hatim Tai? And all the soldiers, of course, said, we did. The king said, we cannot separate all of this gold amongst you lot. And Hatim Tai spoke up and said, it is the old man and woman who found me. Give the reward to them. Let them live in plenty for the rest of their days. At this, the king had a great change of heart, and he said, oh, this Hatim Tai is a truly noble man. And with that, he gave the 2,000 gold coins to the old man and the old woman to live in comfort for the rest of their days. He returned all that had been taken of Hatim Tai's property and restored him to his place as leader of his tribe. So in these 3 simple stories, we have these things that arise. Truth, not truth that has been gathered through knowledge or experiences, but truth that arises in the moment. Humility, humility not coming from having our knees cut from under us or our heads rubbed in the dirt as our experiences of life has brought us, but a humility that comes from peeling off the layers of conditioning like the onion until the essence is revealed, the no-thingness. Humility and nobility, not a nobility of birth, of royalty, not a nobility of the qualities of compassion, pity, and empathy that arise, but a nobility of spirit. Are these 3? Can we say that these 3 are now with us, that at every given moment we would be willing to die for the truth of what arises in the moment? Do we have that true humility that comes from peeling off all of our conditioning? That essence, selflessness, nothingness, nobility, nobility of spirit. Thank you, thank you.